elder statesmen and whom we respect.
Yes.
So it's not just the Brazil breed,
Yes.
it's all people.
No, absolutely. I want to, as I say, if I can bring out a CD or a DVD, let's say with interviews with 20 different breeders on it.
So the elder statesmen, the Brazil breeders, BI breeders, and SPT
Yes.
breeders of the younger generation, but ones that we respect.
Yes. I'm going to, for instance,
Like
do the
Vincent.
same with Vincent. Right. I'm going to do, for instance, I want to do the same with Caroline Greef. I want to sit down with Renee Botha. I
And
want
you should
to
do it with Gretchen.
Yes, with Marita as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can never remember her name, but it's Gretchen.
Her mother's name was Gretchen.
No, I know that. I know that. And
And
where
that's where the
Gretchen.
kennel's name comes from. Okay, now I know quite a bit of your story, but nobody else knows it. Right. When did you see your first Boerboel?
Around about 19, I used to keep Rottweilers, German Shepherds. I used to breed mini wire Dachshunds, believe it or not. But I always had Rottweilers and German Shepherds. And there was a huge hoo-ha in Europe about attacks by Rottweilers and German Shepherds on kitties and people. And I decided that it was just getting too politically difficult to keep using these breeds. So I looked around at finding another guarding breed that would be interesting and stable in a family situation. And I tried a couple of breeds. At one point I bought a Kangal who turned out to be nervous. He wasn't a good example of the breed, but they're very independent and almost untrainable, except for the job that they were designed to do, which is livestock
Marvin?
guarding. Oh, Phil, don't interrupt.
I was only saying you mean Murphy.
Yeah.
Okay, they're unfortunately they're very independent thinkers because they're bred to wander with the flocks, make decisions themselves, and they're not suitable for an urban or suburban environment, and they're not amenable to training.
Yeah.
Other than in their core function. The Rottweiler, I did alongside the hoo-ha about them attacking people, because there was a lot of bad breeding, as we're now seeing in the world today. The breed, because of the influence of fashion in show circles, was getting smaller and less substantial and losing its guarding instinct. So I made a decision to look for something else. Tried a Kangal, that didn't work. Tried an Estrella Mountain Dog, which is another livestock guardian breed, but it's slightly different from Portugal.
What dog is it? Huh?
An Estrella Mountain Dog. It's a Mastiff type livestock guardian breed from the mountains in Portugal.
Okay.
It's a long-haired dog. They're very smart, intelligent dogs, unbelievably, and quite easy to train, which is unusual for a livestock guardian dog. The particular dog I had was one of the most delightful dogs you could ever meet, but he absolutely loved every living thing he ever met. Everything. He loved strangers, he loved kittens, he loved goats, he loved pigs, he loved dogs, he loved cats, and burgers. So I actually kept him until he died, and he died when he was about 11 or 12 years old, but he was a completely useless guard. And one day I was reading a book about pugs, and in the back there was a picture of a pug, and in the background was this large brown mastiff type dog, and I was saying, I wonder what that is. And I searched around among the book and found the reference to the picture, and it was a Boerboel. And I said to myself, what is a Boerboel? So I went and investigated what the Boerboel was, discovered it was a breed from South Africa, and I looked around to see were there any outside Africa, and discovered that there was a cluster of them in Holland, Belgium, Germany, and a couple of breeders in Britain. So I got on a plane and saw practically every Boerboel in Europe. And at the end of that I decided this was a good breed, potentially, could suit what I wanted. And I actually initially I bought two male puppies in Britain, who were from very old bloodlines that are no longer, that were imported into Europe early on, but have now died out of South Africa. And I also, over the next year and a half, brought in 5 dogs from various kennels in South Africa.
Okay. Which year was this, James?
That would have been, I would have been doing that in 1989, 88, and the first dog was bought in 1990.
1990, the first one was used.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, so that's basically...
And he died last year.
Okay, so he lived until 2011. That's a long lifespan for a Boerboel. Okay, now, when did you join an association for the Boerboels?
I joined the SABT, I think in 1990 when I got the first puppy,
Okay.
because I registered them. And I was with the SABT until, a member of the SABT until the end of 2010 when I decided not to pay my subscription anymore.
And your involvement with the UKBC, when did they start? And
I think about 1990, I wasn't aware of the UKBC, I didn't even know there was such a thing, but over a couple of years, a number of enthusiasts got together in the UK and started meeting and associating with each other. And I think it was about 1992 that they contacted me and became aware of me and asked me to come to a UKBC meeting, which I did. And or asked me to come to a meeting. And more, the UKBC had been formed on paper, but at that meeting it was ratified as an organisation. And they asked me to come on board their committee stroke board as a representative for Ireland. And then it became although it was still called the UKBC, in actual fact it's the UK and Ireland Boerboel Club.
Okay. Right. So, but that was never officially changed.
Yes.
Okay.
A year later I became the chairman of it.
Yes.
And at that point we then set about a process where I oversaw the affiliation of the UKBC to the SABT.
Okay. What? And you eventually left the UKBC. Why did you do that?
One of the things that we did in the UKBC is of great concern was the health of the dogs, and we were noticing that a lot of the dogs that came in from South Africa had very poor hip health and very poor elbow health, generally poor orthopedic health. So we formed a scheme which was voluntary, where we would list breeders as accredited breeders of the UKBC if they met certain conditions. And those conditions included that the elbows and hips were tested and were above a certain level, or better than a certain level. And the level that we chose was higher than that, significantly higher than that of than the minimum agreed by the South African organisations. But it was voluntary. At that point, I had a particular dog who was pre-screened when she was a year old and shown to have 0 hips. But when I actually was about to breed her, I had her retested and discovered that one of those hips stayed at 0, but the other one, despite the pre-screening, was quite poor. But I felt she had a sufficient merit as a dog, because I'm a great believer in breeding the whole dog, everything, its mobility, its conformation, its temperament, its brains, what's between its ears. And I felt she had a lot to contribute to the breed. And I informed my colleagues that, notwithstanding the fact that I designed this scheme and supported it, still fully did, the one thing that I felt was missing from was an appeal process where either through a progeny test or through an appeal procedure where if a dog had merit in other areas, you could appeal to use it with approved dogs of better health than themselves, because it was going to contribute to the breed. So I said, I'm going to use this dog that's not in compliance with the scheme, so please delist me as an accredited breeder. And on that basis, given that was an untenable position, so I resigned as chairman because I couldn't be seen to be not complying with their scheme that I'd helped design, and I continued to breed that dog. Now, as it happens, by chance, something like 70% of her lifetime puppies were tested, had their hips and elbows tested. It was just one of those things. They went to enthusiast owners. There were 2 dogs one dog with an elbow problem, one dog with an OCD problem, and one dog with a hip problem. And all of the others were better than her, better than the sires, and they matched the criteria set out in the accredited hip scheme.
Oh well, that just opens the argument for an appeal procedure.
Correct. And in fact, at about that time, my former colleagues put in an appeal procedure.
Okay.
Because they recognised that this was something you could have a dog isn't just a pair of hips or a pair of elbows or a conformation. It's a whole dog, and you've got to breed the whole dog. And sometimes there's things wrong with a dog. Its ears are wrong, maybe one hip is wrong, or its tail might be set wrong. But you look at the whole dog and look at is it a good animal? Is it going to improve what you're doing in the breed? The one thing that I don't compromise on is temperament. If it's a bad temperament, there's no appeal in my eyes. You just don't breed it, you get rid of it, because that's the most important thing about this breed. It's large and powerful. It's dominant, so it needs proper managing and rearing and proper breeding. But the one thing you cannot justify is selling a dog with a bad temperament or breeding a dog with a bad temperament. So other than that, any other minor fault, if it's outweighed by outstanding achievements and the ability to contribute to the breed, I believe there should be an appeal procedure with limits.
Yes. Okay, then at some stage you moved to South Africa. When was that?
That was in 1997.
Okay, and you brought your dogs with. How many dogs did you bring with?
I brought approximately 20 bulls. There's a few, I left about 3 or 4 behind. And just for those 20 Boerboels, 20 had 0 hips, and 19 had 0 elbows, and 1 had 2 elbow.
Okay. And then you settled here in Nelspruit and you started continuing with your dogs, which was quite a different experience. How did your dogs that were bred, born, raised in Ireland cope living in the South African bush next to a big nature reserve from which you had all interesting animals such as baboons, snakes, all types of things coming over? Were they still typical Boerboels?
They were. They had to take a little bit of time to it. I arrived in Copenhagen in the middle of summer, and it was a particularly warm summer, and we had temperatures regularly of 38, 39 and 40, which caused me to collapse. And in their case it was interesting because they come in from a temperate climate, they really noticed the heat, and most of them spent most of the day standing in their water troughs because they just couldn't believe the heat. But after about 2 or 3 months they adjusted. They basically set about killing every amount of game, antelope, pigs and every other strange animal they could find on the farm, and cleared the farm of all game and creatures that were resident, including springbok, bushbuck, duikers, bush pigs, everything you could think of. Wiped them out, took them about 6 months. We still have lots of these animals because we're surrounded by approximately 40,000 hectare of bush, including a local game reserve.
Okay, that's interesting. But you also lost a lot of dogs.
Yes,
to snakes.
That was a new experience. There's no snakes in Ireland, so when I arrived in Pumalangan and found that on the farm there was pythons, mambas, spitting cobras, Egyptian cobras, ring owls. I can't remember the name of the one on the tree that's green. Boomslangs.
Yes.
And unfortunately, the dogs had no experience of what these were. I had one dog in particular who, happened to meet a spitting cobra fairly early on, and he killed it without much trouble and became a great fan of hunting for snakes, and he actively looked for snakes. Before he died, he killed 3 or 4 mambas, a couple of spitting cobras and an Egyptian cobra, but unfortunately on the last effort he got a full-blown bite, and before I got him into the car he was dead.
How many dogs did you lose to the members?
I suppose since I've been here in total I've lost about 12 I've lost about 12 dogs to various snakes, mostly to mambas and I think 1 to a cobra.
Yeah.
But as time has gone by, some of the dogs are beginning to learn if they're going to bark at them, stay away from them. And I had a couple of recent instances where I had a spitting cobra moved into my barn and did actually spit in the eyes of one of my puppies, but she now has learned to never go near a steak. And they're beginning to learn those lessons. And as I firmly believe that dogs learn from each other, I think most of them are being a lot more careful about snakes.
You're a great proponent of the working dog ethic. How would you describe your dogs in general, and what are your concerns as a working dog breeder if you look at the show winners of today?
Okay, to answer that, I want to go back. When I bought these first dogs, and as I say, I bought about 7 dogs over a 2-year period as a foundation. I bought them from a wide spread of different bloodlines in order to start with genetic diversity. 3 of them in particular were from an old working line that had died out in South Africa. I'm a great believer in working dogs. When I bred many wire-haired Dachshunds many years ago, they all hunted. They hunted alone, they hunted in a pack, and they even operated individually as small gun dogs, because I used to shoot. They used to go to ground after rats, rabbits, or whatever. And I've always believed that if a dog cannot work at the function that it was bred for, even if you don't need that function, then there's a problem. So one of the things I noticed that with the dogs when I first bought them was that while I was very impressed, I thought they were a great breed, that there were a couple of issues. One I thought was some of the temperaments of the dogs were a bit flaky. The other one, the major one that I had an issue with was that the dogs were highly dog aggressive. And this was something that, when I've been researching and talked to a lot of breeders, nobody ever mentioned dog aggression. As far as I was aware, there was no dog aggression in the breed. And within a couple of months of all the dogs reaching maturity, I realised there was a high degree of dog aggression, and that I regularly had riots and scrums out the back garden where they all murdered each other. And leaving that aside, I thought it's still a great breed, it's worth persevering with. I did not believe and do not believe in confining dogs in runs, except where it's necessary, and it is in certain circumstances, such as a bitch being pregnant, or a bitch being on heat, or a dog being sick, or a dog being new and needing to be quarantined. So at that point I made a resolution to myself that I was going to eliminate the dog aggression, but would try and retain the other qualities that the dog had in terms of being stable with its family members, but having enough inherent aggression to be a guard dog. Without aggression, a dog would not perform as a guard dog. And I knew that was going to be a difficult role, but I just said, if that couldn't be done, it was a problem. I also, even then, had the belief that as these were farmers' dogs, that if one could step in a time machine and step back to, say, 1940, and he would go out to a bushveld farm where a farmer had a number of Boerboels, and then he wanted to go out the bush to look at chase away the baboons from eating his crops, or pulling at his trees, or he wanted to just do an inspection, and he felt it needed protection from wild animals, or burglars, or farm raiders, or any issues, that he didn't go out and say, I will take that dog because it doesn't fight, I will take that dog because it doesn't fight, that dog. I believe that those farmers went out, whistled, and all the dogs went with them. Any dog that, instead of working or accompanying them, that insisted on fighting with each other, I believe would have been disposed of, because they'd be completely functionally useless and a nuisance. And there wasn't money for vet fees and such things if they were fighting. And I think that with all the benefits of forming a breed organisation, when the SABG was formed, a lot of these farmers became breeders, not just farmers. So then the appraisal system encouraged a focus on improving the physical conformation, which was needed. But unfortunately over time, it became a total focus on improving the physical conformation, and because the dogs became more valuable, they tended to be kept in runs and owned in larger numbers, and that therefore they were no longer selecting for the total dog, as in a dog that was strong, muscular, powerful, athletic, and had a good working temperament. They were selecting for a dog that would win a higher score in appraisal. And when you cease to select for something, you lose it. So I do believe that over the last 30 years, the working temperament of the Boerboel has been lost. And I've forgotten what the question was.
No, you actually answered. If you compare, I asked you to compare what you wanted in a working dog and what you see in today's show dogs, and I think you basically answered the question by saying, that we've lost a lot of the functionality of the dog because there was an overemphasis purely on conformation, on appearance. Okay. So it's not just health; it's also your ability to meet the reasons for the existence of the breed.
Yeah.
Your breed
I
purpose.
also believe that the Boerboel is a mastiff, and even as a working dog, it is not a high drive working dog. It is not a high energy working dog. It's not like a Malinois, which is a herder, which is just you just cannot keep as a pet because it's never switched off. It's always going at 100 miles an hour. It wants to jump on people and bite them. They're impossible to keep as pets. A Boerboel, the beauty of a Boerboel to me was that you had a stable dog that was gentle in its family environment, stable with your workers, stable and friendly with visitors, but that when required could guard with courage and be very effective at it, and that it also had the physical conformation to be able to deliver that guarding. What I have found, what I feel now about the dogs in the ring, I suppose to put it simply, a Boerboel, to be a guard, a dog needs to be a man-stopper. If it isn't a man-stopper, it's a watchdog. And it'll alert you, it'll warn you, it'll bark, but it really can't do anything. Some of the best watchdogs you'll ever find are dachshunds, but they're not going to take down a man. And at the end of the day, the most dangerous thing that people want to guard against is unfortunately other people. It's not animals. So a dog, for me, a Boerboel has to be strong enough and powerful enough and muscular enough to have the strength to be a man-stopper. But it has to catch that man, and it has to have the stamina to fight that man. So it therefore needs to be athletic and mobile and fit enough to be capable of doing that. So a Boerboel should be a balance between power, weight, musculature, and athleticism and stamina and fitness. So it should be a balanced dog. But that means you don't want a dog that's too small, and you don't want a dog that's too big. If it's too small, it won't have the power. If it's too big, it won't have the movement. Now my problem in the modern Boerboel is, I have to say, especially with many of the SABT breeders who have a total focus on appearance, is that for fashionable reasons and marketing reasons, the dogs are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And they have lost, in many cases, the ability to move. They've lost their working instincts because it wasn't selected for. And even if they retain them, they don't have the conformation they can deliver.
Okay. Very clear, very well put. Something else. Your dogs are generally of fawny color or reddish dogs. What do you think about deviant colors? Colors such as blacks, blues, liver noses, all tiger skins.
Okay. Well, I think you've got to look at the deviant colours. You've got to divide up the source of the deviant colours. The colour inheritance in the Boerboel comes from the Ignati gene, which delivers certain colours, either as dominant colours or as recessive colours. Now, to deal with the most obvious deviant colour in recent times is the black Boerboel. Now, I think you've got to look, there's two issues with the black Boerboel. First of all, there is a proposition that there were black Boerboels in the past, and the Ignati gene is capable of producing a black Boerboel without any malfeasance, a naturally occurring black Boerboel, but in very small numbers. You would expect to find something like one black Boerboel in every 4,000 dogs born. That gene from the black gene in the Ignati gene is a recessive. So you can have two red dogs who both carry the black gene, producing a Boerboel. There has been an explosion of black Boerboels in the last 3 years. Most of these, as it turns out, are a dominant black gene. Now, the dominant black gene has never existed in the Boerboel. There hasn't been a dominant black gene Boerboel for 40 years. If you talk to the old folks about their youth and what colours were available, most of them say they never even saw a black Boerboel. They'd never heard of one until recently. I do believe that there were probably occasional black Boerboels which were probably got rid of or given away who were genuine. But the recent explosion, I believe, is being driven by crossbreeding using breeds like the Cane Corso, the Neapolitan Mastiff and the Labrador. Those black genes are dominant, and that's why these dogs, when bred on, are producing black puppies. They shouldn't if they were pure Boerboels. They should be recessive. And unless they met another Boerboel with a black gene, there should be no black Boerboels. So therefore I believe that all of the there is a great cloud of uncertainty, therefore, over the origin of the black Boerboel. My concern about the black Boerboel is not so much the colour as it is that if there has been crossbreeding taking place to get the black colour into the Boerboel, what temperament came with it? What breeds were the source of the black? And if they were Labradors, it's going to change the Boerboel, it's going to remove the aggression that's required for guarding. If they were Brazilian Mastiffs, which are a ferocious breed, it's going to make our breed dangerous. If they were Cane Corso, it's somewhat similar, but it's not the same. I do not want to find that in 5 years' time, the Boerboel has a completely different temperament because of the temperament that came with the black colour from unknown sources. From my mind, there is a sufficient uncertainty over all the black Boerboels that means that there's no upside in recognising them. It's a danger to our breed, and there's a lot of downside, and I believe they should all be banned and disallowed. Now, looking at other deviant colours, the other deviant colours that come up sometimes are black, are blue, are powder. There's recently been a black and tan, and I actually bred a pure white puppy recently. Now, to me, they are possible in any breed where you get throwbacks to the older founding genes, because there were a lot of breeds used to construct this breed. While they are purebred Boerboels, I do not believe that they are acceptable. At the time that the standard was drawn up by the founders of the organisations, they said that the colour of the Boerboel should be yellow, brown, all shades of yellow, brown, brindle and sable, and that they would allow piebalds and Irish marked dogs, which is a pattern, not a colour. I see no reason to add unacceptable colours that we want to avoid in the Boerboel just because it makes more money or for fashionable reasons or because they're exotic. I think we should stick to the standard. I think the standard should be very reluctantly changed and for very good reasons and not for fashion, profits or on a whim. And I therefore believe that all deviant colours, they can be recognised as pure Boerboels. They should get a birth certificate as pure Boerboels, but that birth certificate should be marked not for breeding or appraisal.
Okay, very clear. Now, you've been involved with a number of the Boerboel organisations. You've been involved in the UK as chairman of the UKBC, as a breeder in Ireland. You came to South Africa, you were still a SABT member. You subsequently joined IBASA. You've had a lot of exposure to KUSA. You've had a lot of exposure to Boerboel International. What do you think the Boerboel associations should do to ensure the future of the breed?